Hello, welcome everyone. I'm Parul Bhargav from UXD Talks. I'm a community leader for design workshops, and I myself a developer. So I also lead developer workshops also. And I see today we have a few people who are developers also. That's great to hear. So let's begin with the webinar. So today we have Nazim Iqbal. He's a design practitioner. He catalyzes design and digital transformation by teaming up with brands and organizations. And he himself is very passionate about digital response to human emotions and ethics in design. So he has teamed up with many organizations like Sapien, Nokia, and Interactive Venues. So he himself tells about himself that he uses design to enable organizations and teams to realize their human potential and to create human connection. That's great. So today he's going to talk about how design has a great influence on people's behavior and lives, and how design is critical, has a critical importance to the role of designers, and why we need to be aware of ethics in design and how it is applied to design in society. So it sounds like a great topic to talk about, and we are looking forward to hear from Nazim. Welcome, Nazim, and over to you.
Yeah, thanks, Parul. Good afternoon, everybody. And thanks, Parul, for the word, for the introduction. This is a topic which is rarely taught, this ethics in design, but this is something which is very central to design. And especially at the stage of evolution that design is right now in the world, uh, there is going to be more and more focus on ethics, especially as we move into AI, machine learning, all these areas. There's going to be greater, larger, and larger discussion on design ethics. So I have a presentation. Just give me a minute. So as I said, this is the area which is very central to design, but very less talked about. Especially, I am now focused on, and as I kind of bring more focus into it, I am realizing that even in the design courses which are taught in design schools, this is not too much touched upon topic. So as I said, the session is open. If you have a very pertinent question, you can ask in between, but largely we will keep the question towards the end, so that we can have a more open session and I can more leisurely answer the questions that we may have. Okay, so let's look at what is ethics. I think this is also in our society as such. There's not too much of talk about what is ethics. It is only some scenarios that people come in and say, "Oh, this is very unethical of him to do, of somebody to do." People usually don't compliment. So you have done a very ethical thing. People usually complain. And that is the reason, because of the negative mindset people bring to ethics. It has taken a backdrop. It is not so much talked about, even in general. But if we go back, what is ethics? Ethics, largely it is a common understanding, common code of conduct for a group of people. So what may be, ethical in India may be a little unethical in US. But largely human being has the same ethics. Like you should speak the truth. You should make sure that you help the poor if you have the means. These are basic ethics. But yes, there are small modulation across countries, across customs, across culture. And if you go back, all the philosophers, their philosophy is rooted or kind of reflect on ethics. Ethics is central to all religion, all philosophy of humans. Now we look at what is ethics in design, and why it's so important. See, design ethics concern moral behavior and responsible choice in the practice of design. So every time, every day when we are designing and we are, taking micro level decisions, whether to do the animation this much, whether to give more bright color to the headline, how much of treatment we should give to 50% discount, 1+1 offer, when we are saying, okay, product, if somebody goes to a product interface, what is the kind of action we should, highlight extra, give it a more extra highlight, then what is necessary, then it becomes a bias approach from a product design perspective. So that is where it comes that we need to make responsible choices, and it goes to the moral fabric of a person, of a moral fabric of a society. That is design ethics. And this is, I was kind of going through one of the article on design ethics, and this kind of caught my attention. And here it is, as we see that as people are becoming increasingly aware that good design, bad design influence me, people are becoming more and more conscious about what the role of ethics should be. How much of freedom designers should have, what kind of moral values designers should have. So largely the question comes, why should designer be concerned about ethics? Why they should be concerned about ethics? Because largely if you look at it, and I go back 15, 20 years back, when I'm going 15, 20 years back, because that's when, around 20 years back, the digital boom or digital era in India started, 20, 25 years back. Around the time the quest was more to present things visually, and if you could represent things visually in a justifiable way, in a good presentable way, that was the end. And this is like 2000, 2005. And then there was an era where people say, okay, it is there, but it's not working. Then the people started talking about making things usable, not just looking beautiful. And then, people, when it become usable, people said, okay, we need to kind of have experience layer to it. It's fine, it comes to fulfill my needs, but doesn't make me, it doesn't give me pleasure about the task that I'm doing. Then the experience era came, and now we are moving into a space where more moral issues will be called. Like if we see, in the last 4 or 5 years, the amount of attention that has come for fake content, fake news is enormous. This was unthinkable as 10 years back. If we go 10 years back, the amount of attention that fake content or even the fake, I think the fake content or fake news didn't exist. If we were to say this, use the same term, and I could relate, 10 years back, if somebody said fake content, what is fake content? I'm writing it. And I'm writing it, this is my piece. So that question, moral question didn't came. But now, we, like I said, we're moving from to a quest to visually represent, to making it usable, to an experience layer, adding a more experience layer. Then experience at what expense? At the expense of your moral values, at the expense of ethics. Now this question has started coming to play. Now again, this is a kind of analysis I have done. Why should designer be concerned about design? Design is an act of creating. Important thing is, and I will be kind of, I've been telling a lot of my designer, when somebody design, he becomes like God, almost like God. He's creating something which doesn't exist. There may be template, there may be, design which is existing in a specific form, in a specific way. But if somebody put a real hard quest in designing something, I would not call it original, but it's something really inspirational. Then this is for the first time he's doing. somebody did a parallax effect. That was something somebody did for the first time. So it's almost like it's like a feeling of a god, you know, and then because you are playing an attribute of a god as designer, it is important that we are aware of our power and the influence we have. And then secondly, in this age, the speed of influence has grown enormously. We do one thing, a very simple example is there is a breaking news or there is an act which has been captured by somebody in a video format. I end up receiving it from 3-4 WhatsApp group. The same message, it is so fast that I send it and it goes to 5 other groups and then it circulates and goes and then come back to you. So the speed is phenomenal now. And the other important thing is that digital trends are now become almost like saintly sermons. There is a trend for selfies, then all of a sudden, there is a cascading effect, overarching effect on the society. And then you have, all of a sudden, you have a TikTok, wave. You have, a lot of application, a lot of actors, a lot of scenarios, cropping up around TikTok ecosystem. So these are like, it's almost like, the earlier, the way saint used to have influence on a larger population. The entire village used to get converted, become devoted to a saint. I think that is so. Largely, if you look at it, these are 3 prime reasons why we should, as designer, as digital nomads, or digital natives, or technology, or creative technology, or a designer, why we should be concerned about ethics. Because we create something which doesn't exist, which is new, so it carries a novelty item, speed, and the other is our creation has an enormous influence over the population. Now, so the question is, what are we designing for? Have we pondered? Are we designing something and we have a value system? We say, okay, we do not want to harm the humans, or is it that we want to say we are looking to improve the humans' situation, or is it both? It depends from scenario to scenario, from product to product, from solution to solution, from service to service. But the big question is we should be conscious of this. Because there is a very thin line, between user experience and user manipulation. And we as practitioners would have seen in everyday life, every exercise we are doing, people say, oh no, we'll bring more highlight, let's do this, which is good, but at what cost? It depends at what cost. Like for example, I'll give you, there's a lot of automation which is happening across the world. Earlier, if you have a complaint about the phone service, you would call somebody up. The phone service company, somebody will pick up the phone, and then he will kind of note down your issue. Somebody will come and send to it. This is like 15, 20 years back. This is how it used to happen. Now, and then slowly the IVR came into play. So then you will kind of call up. There will be one layer of IVR. Say, okay, what you want? You want to lodge a complaint? You want to pay your bills? You want to kind of upgrade service, whatever. And then as we evolve over the last decade, we see that there is an entire matrix which has evolved on IVR to a point where now you want to talk to a human. You will not be able to do. I am not able to do. I try so many times. And most of the time it so happened that I end up saying, okay, recording, ending up to a session where I just record a message and then just come away. So now if you look at it, automation, very good. It's a good advancement of the technology. But what is the price humans are paying? The price that humans are paying, that they're becoming more and more isolated. They are becoming more and more emotionally bankrupt, because they are not getting a human interaction. The human interaction are getting lost at the cost of automation. So you are very angry with your phone service. You call up somebody, and then you kind of take your anger out, on that person, and that person, with service provider or the executive at the service provider, will try to resolve it. He will try, or if he is not able to resolve, you will have a discussion, maybe an argument, or maybe you have a good word. How's the weather? Then you come back. You come back in a much lighter mental state, in a much lighter emotional state. Whereas when you go in an IVR scenario, you record, even if you end up recording the message, you come with a mental state that I am not fulfilled. I am not done. There is a level of frustration there. So I cannot tell my version. I couldn't see, because, so what I mean to say that there is a human cost for automation. And this is where I am saying that every decision that we take from a design perspective, and if you see a large platform like Google, you see a large platform like Facebook, how some of the design decisions, how later on they become manipulative. How a small tick of saying, okay, yes, I opt in, can be manipulated much later, and you end up sharing whatnot of your information, and then it end up to a level where it kind of decide the future course of action, because it led to a election, and then a person who was not suitable, in states has happened. Such manipulative practices came into play. So what I mean to say, every day there is a very, every decision that we're taking, either, we cannot be neutral. As designer, we cannot be neutral. Let's face it. We either add to the experience, or we end up manipulating the experience. And we need to be very conscious of what decisions and what implications our decision will have, and that is extremely important. That is what I would say the session is all about, to raising consciousness that we are, as designers, as digital natives, as digital, or even technologies, that we are the custodian of ethics. We have to own it, and we have to take it forward. Now, this is a very famous, I think, practicing lawyer in the early 19th century in the US. And absolutely bang on. Ethics is knowing the difference between what you have to do and what is right to do. This is extremely important, and this comes, see, a lot of ethics is not, most of the ethics is not external. Most of the ethics will always be based on your value system, on the value system of the organization you are part of. And then based on these two, there are some decisions you will take. That is what, these large three factors is what will evolve the ethics, design ethics, that we are talking about. This is a classic case. I did a post on this, we have design of roads. This morning I came across another photo in which there is an elephant baby trying to get down from a railway station. It is said that elephants follow the same path generation after generation. If they are going through a jungle and there is a path they have been following, across generation, they will continue to follow that. In Africa, there have been cases where there is a restaurant, or there is a resort which has been built on the path of elephant, and the elephant still continue, and the restaurant, the resort has made a provision for them to walk. They peacefully walk through. So here is the simple case that even though it's in a physical space, but this is a design decision. Whoever designed this never considered the end users who use this road. We only considered human. I don't know even if it's suitable for human or not. But we never considered the other stakeholders, the other users. And here it is, the mother is struggling to get his baby onto the higher, the curb you have, road curb, yeah. So again, another famous thought, and I absolutely believe in this. It is ethics. Ethics, civilization. With civilization comes ethics, and with ethics, you become a human being. Otherwise, we all are beasts. No, otherwise, there is no difference between, it is ethics which stops us from relieving ourselves by the roadside, like a dog. They're as simple as this. It is the ethics, it is the morals, which make sure that, oh, this is not becoming of me as a gentleman. It is not becoming of me as an educated person. It is not becoming of me as a human being, that I should relieve myself by the roadside. I'm giving a very sedentary, very rudimentary example. So this is ethics and moral which differentiate. Otherwise, we all are animals. Again, we define user experience in multiple ways. We say, okay, user experience is a design function. It's not purely a design function. It is a design engineering both. And then we say it's a system that works for users, work best for users or intended users. So many a time, we build something for a specific user, but then during our process, whether it's product design or a solution design or a service design, we become so focused on acquisition, that we have to acquire more user, we have to acquire more user, we have to acquire more user, that we forget that we also have to serve user whom we acquire, whom we have acquired, So this is that highlight on that. So I think I have said this earlier, and this is my famous. I have famous in the sense I have told innumerable designers, all my design team, that you become almost imitate God by the act of creation. Designer, is such a powerful one, and because of that, it is very intoxicating. It's extremely intoxicating. And I believe that if good designers can overcome the urge to, or resist the temptation to over design, they can be great designers. Every designer, because when you create, you are tempted to create more. But then by virtue of the fact that we are in the design space, we have to be very sure how much of design is required, how much of this effect is required, both from a business need, from a user need, and from a human need perspective. How much of that? Now, most of the, especially young designers I've seen, or even mature designers, it's a more a matter of consciousness that you're not conscious. You're more driven by, okay, let's create something unique here. We've not done something, eye-popping design for some time now. In this project, we are going to do like that. So that is so there is another objective defined, driving you. And this is because, people become so intoxicated by that act of, by their own, the power of create, the power to create. And that's almost like a God. So it really is an intoxicating. And I believe that somebody, especially young designers, they can resist the temptation to over-design. They can be great designers. So here it is. I say that with power comes great responsibility. The famous saying, and quite contextual here. So the question is now, okay, this is the canvas that we're talking about, design, ethics, human values, that. But where does it all begin? So I said, okay, let's see. It begins, like I say, begins with you. Because at the end of the day, you are looking at a definition of ethics. You're looking at moral values. You're part of a specific culture. But then you, as designer or as human being, you internalize all of these. And then what you have internalized goes through your own personal moral filter. And then when we create something, when we create conversation, when we create design, when we create, any other thing, which involves or which is more people facing or involve people, then those, what we have internalized and been through our personal filter is what manifests. Is manifested in design, it manifested in writing, it manifested in conversation, it manifested in a few other things that we have. So the the important part is that we should be very clear about, or we should have a consciousness for our own framework. What is our own framework of morals and ethics, design ethics? Okay. And if you look at most of the design, most of the public-facing professions, whether, like I said, police force, lawyers, lawmakers, public servant, medical practitioner. Oh, designer, I have forgotten to cross. So remove designer. But if you look at all of them, and if you do a Google search, you will find they all have code of conduct. They all have code of ethics. If you remember, people go and take an oath as a member of parliament. People take an oath saying, okay, I abide by Ramayana, I abide by Quran, I abide by Bible, that I will do this, I will work in the best interest of the country. That is an oath, and they are supposed to follow the code of conduct. They're supposed to follow to internalize the code of ethics, which, once they become a part of the sector. And the same applies with police force and other ones. Now, should it not be the design fraternity? I believe so. It should be. But we are lagging. We are lagging because of largely it is the consciousness is not there. Once the consciousness is there, it will become a factor, and there will be a movement to accommodate this. And I believe the time has come now. Why? We will just, as we move forward, we'll see. I was searching for a couple of days back, after I decided I will do this talk. I was searching for Facebook code of ethics. Doesn't exist. Doesn't exist. Code of conduct, which is a behavioral code for the employees, exists. They have a code of conduct. Their own code of ethics. Now, if you look at, Facebook, and the kind of news it has been in, I think there should be a code of ethics. Now, having said that, is Facebook the villain? No, not necessarily. In fact, the change should start from Facebook itself. We have to, because it's a behemoth. Facebook is so large, so influential now, that the change has to start from there. How will the change start? Once we have the consciousness, like there's been now a consciousness that there is fake news. There's a consciousness that there is a manipulation. Now, Facebook is going back. Like, for example, the other day, Instagram popped me and said, you want to set how much you want to allocate to Instagram every day. And I kind of allocated 1 hour, and then, I forgot about it. And then let's say, I think it was 15 days after I've set it, 15, 20 days, that one day it pops me on the interface, it pops and says, you're about to breach the 1 hour, something of that sort, 1 hour, allocation that you've given to Instagram. And I was like, very happy. Oh, this is like, my grandmother or somebody is coming to say, oh, you are transgressing. So you should not be doing this. So I think so what I mean to say, all of these products, and this will only start once we as a community become more conscious of the implications of the decision that we are taking on humans, on people, on society, on culture, on the world. Then only will this, all these products, all these companies, all this design will have a code of ethics. They should have that. They should have. And this is the important one, because the most important thing is that you may be an ethical person, but because we don't have evolved consciousness about ethics, what we may be doing may not be ethical. It's almost like this classic example of usability. There's a handle at the top of a washroom, and every day you go and you kind of unconsciously you have trained your subconscious mind to raise your hand and open the door at the top of the bathroom. It's been wrongly fitted, but now you become programmed to respond to that. Your subconscious self become programmed to that. It is not an issue for you at all because you now become trained. In the same way, the same example can be brought into the space of ethics, because either we have not been exposed to the right practice or to the entire canvas of what implication we have not thought about it. We make it red, we make it pink, we make it gray, make it big, we make it small. Okay, what the client wants, let's just do it. That way. So we may be the big question is that I may be very ethical in all my dealing. I may be very honest, but it will not automatically translate into ethical work. Ethical works need some thinking, implementing, thinking, having a personal framework, and then implementing in a work, and then kind of keep powering it with learning, what and how the world is going. So ethical design has now, especially in the last 2-3 years, has become quite vociferous as a factor. There's a lot of fair amount of mind space which has come. This is a model by somebody else. This is by somebody in the Europe, I think. Actually, from yesterday, I have been having viral. There's supposed to be another layer to the entire presentation, which I have not been able to add. Maybe in the next session. And I was, even this morning, I was not in a physical state to kind of be sure that I will take this presentation. But otherwise, I would have had thrashed this out. This is by somebody, by an organization or by a person in Europe. And this is a kind of framework they're evolving. Largely what they're saying is that it is human rights, human effort, and human experience. As of now, we are concerned about only human experience. We are not digging deep. We are not, we are not basing our decisions on the right thing. We are just kind of coming and varnishing on the top. What we should be very clear of, that there should be certain values, human values or human rights that we are talking of, and every product, every solution that we are building should be very clear of certain rights and certain values that will promote. And there is a pool of, it could be a pool of 15, 20 values and rights. And we say, okay, this will kind of, the work that we are going to develop for this brand or this product, it will support these rights. Let's say inclusivity. It will kind of support trustworthiness, because all product cannot support every value, every rights. So every product should identify, but they should identify certain human values, and based on that, from there, the human experience should evolve. The human experience should be rooted in all those values, which becomes central to that product. This is what the pyramid is all about. Yeah. So again, there is another way which is growing, which is, we have design thinking, we have ethical design thinking, and which is very simple. We have human values coming into the mix. We have design goals, which we had earlier, but we have now human values coming into the mix, and that is what ethical design thinking is. Now, like I said at the very beginning, why is becoming so important? Because we now, from designing surfaces, designing product, designing solution, designing applications, we are moving to a space where we are looking to design artificial intelligence. And when we say artificial intelligence, it is not robots only. AI will come into play. Is coming into play in a banner ad. It is coming into play the kind of content I will see. It is coming into play the kind of interaction option or the reaction option it will show me. The kind of content it will show me, and then it will also coming into play about what kind of connection I will make, because they will only offer those kind of people. So AI is having much deeper implication. And if you look at AI and human intelligence, and you can do that, this came this morning to me, the statement that it is only ethics which differentiate. between what the human intelligence is and artificial intelligence is. As ethical artificial intelligence can be, you know, the more closer it can comes to human intelligence. This is what the crux of this is. Now, if you look at it, we have been designing systems. Very soon, we need to move, or people, the world is already moving to designing value system. Value system for what? For humans? No. For machines? No. Then for human machines. Because we are not developing just machines. We are developing machines with AI, which is almost like human machines. So from designing system, we need to move to designing value system. And this is not at the expense of value system. Doesn't mean that you don't design a design system. You design a value system. No. Design system will continue to exist, but there is another layer to it, which need to be added, which is value system. And if you look value system, then it is kind of having a emotional implication. It got to do with the emotions. A very simple example is that, like you remember that post earlier of where this lawyer quote was there. What to do? What is right to do? For example, you have a right to. You have the right in a house. If you go to a friend's house to eat anything, he said, guys, friend Sami, this is your house. You can eat whatever you want. But is it right that as you enter the home, you straight away go to the kitchen, open the fridge, and grab a couple of fruits and come back and sit? Is it, you have the right, he is giving you the right to use your house, but you should know what is right to do. Now, is it right to do that you enter the home, straight away go to the kitchen, open the fridge, bring stuff out and start eating? Now, if you look at the emotional state his friend will be, guys, he came in, I understand, I've given him the right, but, I think it will leave him in an emotional state which is difficult to define. But it is not a very pleasant emotional state. And why is it so important when we say design system too? Because we are now, if you look at it, we are moving from robot to humanoid. And when we say robot to humanoid, we say we're moving from technology to values. Because now technology is given. And when we talk about humanoids, we talk about values, this is where design comes. Because design is what? One of the way I define design is what makes technology usable. Without design, technology is not usable. You give anybody a Java, J2ME, you give anybody React Native, you will not be able to use. A common will not be able to use. It is designed when it comes and add a human interface, human layer. Then it becomes more usable by the users, by the humans. So as we are moving, so we are not, because the important thing is that we're not designing any longer a machine. And when I say robot and humanoid, it is not related, just limited to this humanoid. These AI, machine learning, natural language processing, this is getting incorporated in every aspect of the digital ecosystem. And in every aspect of digital ecosystem, design has a role to play. And design, one of the role to play is this, that they make sure that whatever technology is doing is relatable to human. If a technology develops a humanoid like this, and this system doesn't know who I am, what my value system, what my belief system is, can you understand? It will be very difficult. Very soon, this humanoid are going to be so intelligent, they want to know what value system I am, what religion I have, because they will act accordingly. A lot of things come from our value system. Now, this is an interesting case. I think you guys have heard about Sophie. Sophie was created by David Hanson Jr. He's an American. He's a founder of Hanson Robotics, a Hong Kong-based product company. and he started in 2013, I think so. And 2017, Sophie, which is again a humanoid created by David Jan Hansen, it was given a citizenship of Saudi Arabia. It received a lot of press releases, press coverage, and then Sophie slowly moved into a role of marketing executive or marketing manager, something like that. And then obviously as a person, then you speak out. And because Sophie was the first humanoid to be given a citizen of a country, there was extra limelight and extra opportunities coming Sophie's way to speak out and to make her presence felt. And so, in one of the opportunities that she got to speak, she spoke about women rights. So understand value system. So machine is there, created by somebody who has American value system, but developed it in Hong Kong, another value system, and then Sophie got a citizen in Saudi Arabia, another value system, and she made a statement about human rights, which is very American statement in Saudi Arabia, where women doesn't have the right to drive, and created a huge roar and a lot of noise was there. And another very interesting case is the last point is 150 expert in medicine, robotic, AI, and ethics written a letter sometime back to European Commission saying, electronic person, which is the humanoid, should not be given human rights, equal human rights. Again, it's an ethic. If you're wanting it to, it's a very complex question. Obviously, not a straight line answer. If you want somebody to come as closer to human being, then is it only in the area of performing a task, or is it in the areas of values as well? So what we are designing, these are again, these are different humanoids developed by Hanson Robotics, different. What we are designing, and this is the question I've been asking. I still don't have an answer. Are we designing assistant, emotional machine, flawless, superhuman, alter ego? Is it desired? But then the question is, are humans perfect? We're trying to design a perfect machine, a perfect machine with artificial intelligence, AI, or human intelligence. But are the human perfect? And it is the imperfectness of the human which make us so interesting. I like somebody because he's imperfect. If it is everybody becomes perfect, then the world will be very boring. It is the imperfectness. So see if you now we come to area, a lot of ethics. It's all about ethics. It's no longer about technology. No longer about the design. How the nose. It is. If you look at this screen and the level that the discussion we have now come to, we are talking all about morals, ethics. This is where the world is moving. So this is again, somebody said, not my statement. Should we have a professional value that any product service you want must serve people and not replace them? Given the hue and cry about automation, about AI, about robots, and they're replacing people, is it ethical to think like this or not ethical? Think about it. We can have a follow-up discussion on this. And this is, any of you have heard about Clement Monk? We almost done, and I will open the question round now, and I will kind of, this is my first question. Before taking question, I would kind of put the first question forward. Any of you heard about Clement Monk? Can you hear me? I can't hear anybody. Can you hear me?
Yes, Nazim, we can hear you.
Okay. So this is a question, and I would love to hear somebody answer this. Any of you have heard about Clement Mock? Doesn't seem so, huh? So I would say he was a pioneer design thinker. Uh, Extremely, I would say, one of those pioneers uh, whom today's world doesn't know much about. He was with Apple. He was with Sapient for some time, and then he was with a few other companies. And this is his saying, this is his quote, and I absolutely love it. Absolutely, this is closer to what I believe and what I feel like. Design doesn't mean, you know, looking good. It doesn't just mean looking good. It means being good. This is design. It's not like you paint it, you structure it, and then you give it a form of goodness. It is about what that your being is good in itself. So that's from my side. I'm open to the question. Some of the resources that you may want to refer in the subject that we just talked about. Yeah.
So anybody has questions? You can open your mics if you want. If you don't want to,
This is the organization I've just formed and I'm running. Yeah.
Yeah, Nazim.
So any questions that people have, they may kind of put forward.
Uh, if you have any questions, you can open up your mics. If you would like to ask any questions to Nazim. If it is not related to ethics, even then I think you can
Yeah, I'm
ask.
open to, yeah. This is a conversation. This is not a question answer round. This is a conversation.
Of course, yeah.
I'm sorry, I kind of did a talk. Otherwise, I had intended to be conversation. So feel free to kind of
We all have
join
enjoyed.
the conversation.
It was quite insightful. We all have enjoyed the presentation. So we have one question from Umesh.
Yeah.
So he's asking, how can I learn UX design? So Umesh, he's just a junior, and I think he's just learning, and he wants to understand UX design also. Right, Umesh?
So can Umesh speak? Can you hear Umesh? No. Possible.
Umesh, yeah, he's there. Umesh, you can open your mic if you want. He can hear. He can hear Nazim. You can please.
Yeah. Hi Umesh. Yeah. If you can give me a quick background about how many years of experience you have and what space you are. Are you a technologist or you already in design space? I can't hear anything. Is there a voice coming from Umesh?
Umesh, you can type if you're not able to speak. That's okay. You can type here in the chat.
In the chat box, there are a lot of chat I've not seen. So, Parul, I hope you have been
Yeah,
keeping a
yeah.
track.
We've been waiting for the questions, but I guess we don't have any question at the moment. Uh,
So, Umesh,
right.
I think I did not get an answer. So, I hope he's a fresh and have not experienced.
Hmm.
So, first and foremost, to be a UX designer, the first step is that you should expose yourself to all form of design and all form of arts. Go to musical, uh, you know, uh, uh, events, go to art events, and go to movies. As many
Nazim,
of Yeah.
Nazim Umesh has started with the front end.
So he started with the front end. Okay. So even then, you first and foremost expose yourself to all form of expression, human expression, artistic expression. That is extremely important from a UX perspective if you want to pursue excellence. And then the other very important part is try to have try to develop a culture of having a culture of conversation with the with the sabzi wala, with the ready wala, with the manager of a showroom, as many human perspective as you can get. I think that's the second most important thing that you should do. And third is that I think learn some of the tools. You know, fourth I would say uh, read and read and read as much of about UX evolve, how UX field is evolving and developing. You all are guys, especially you, Umesh, you are at a very sweet time. UX space is now maturing, just maturing. In India, there's an exciting time to be here. So read as much as possible. And then always, fifth, I would say, always have a UX pet project going. Have a side project going. Doesn't have to be your client work, doesn't have to be your office work. Keep something going. I think if you do all of these in another year and a half, 2 years, you'll be in a very good position.
Uh, okay, Nazim, we have another question from Shrikant. So he basically is a UI designer and
Hello.
he is in
Uh,
the middle of the
Hi.
project. Yeah, okay, he will
Ah,
speak.
yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
okay, Shrikant.
I,
Hi, Iqbal. How are
I,
you?
yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah, actually, basically, I'm a designer, UI designer. I have knowledge on Photoshop, Illustrator, and designing knowledge. But I, right now in the company, the star, one of in the middle of the project, I joined. There is a social networking application. So they want to start like from UX point of view. So I'm a bit confused, like where do I start a UX? In that project, actually, what that design's already there. Okay, so they want to research on the something they want to uh, user point of view create the design. Designs are fine, but they want to uh, prepare the application as user centric. So empathy map. I'm new to UX design. So how can I do that?
So you mean to say that what I understand, I'm summarizing the understanding, the design already exists,
Yes, right.
and there's a product team or technology team is there.
Yes, right.
You have come into the project,
Mhm.
and the expectation from you is that you will take that design and product closer to the user expectation.
Yes,
Is
right.
that what you're saying?
Yes, right.
Is
Exactly.
that correct? So first and foremost, your mandate is very simple. Understand who the user are, who your real product is.
Okay. Yeah.
If that is already documented,
Mm.
validate that.
Yeah, actually, that is a project. Actually, that already it is developed. That is the designs developing in state, right? Designing and developing started already. So application um, that, but that is not understandable UI. Like
So I understand whatever state
yeah,
the your design is or the existing design is, that doesn't matter.
yeah, okay.
What matter is that you have a mandate
Mm-hmm.
to take the designer as close to the expectation of the user as possible. Correct?
Okay, yeah,
That is the mandate which has been given.
yeah, that is a
So
challenge thing.
so it's a few steps, very simple. First and foremost, you need to understand the users. Now,
Okay,
understanding the user is if they have a user report, very good. If they don't have, then you create. If they have, then you should validate.
right.
Because somebody may have just kind of given a user description. So understand that.
Okay.
Ideally, you should also talk to a few users
Oh yeah.
of who are there.
Okay.
Number one. Number two, you look now. Then the most important thing is then after you have talked to them, you talk
Mhm.
to the business also to get a sense of how much of affordance they have. Affordance is, how much of bandwidth they have in terms of redesigning. If you propose that you scrap the entire design and redesign, are they open to that? Maybe they are not. Then you have to kind of look at what they can afford. They can afford, then you can say, okay, I will, then maybe, we will design some of the key templates and some part of the design. So this judgment call, this estimation you have to do, and this will be based on when you talk to the business, which is like you getting the business need. If the business need, they have a certain expectation to take the product closer, but also they have to also outline their need of saying, okay, this is how much of time and budget we have for doing all of these. So when you have done that, then you kind of form a design vision. Now you have the business constraint, business need in place, you have the user need in place, and then you kind of have form a product vision. Now what you visualize, the product should be like that.
Okay.
And there's no harm in saying, okay, I think as of now it's like Make My Trip. It should not be like Make My Trip. It should be like Airbnb, kind of. It will not be an exactly Airbnb, but for people who are not very visual, it helps to take references. So it will not be exactly like Airbnb, but you are kind of getting a sense. You're developing a vision.
Okay.
So once you have that vision in place, design vision for the product, then you see, okay, what now the existing product that I have, how much it fits into the vision that I have for the product. And if it doesn't fit, then what tweaks I have to do, what changes I have to do. And do I need to redesign? Do I need to, if you have to redesign and this is, let's say, absolutely off the mark, then it is better you tell them that it is absolutely off the mark. And after that, they may say, oh, we cannot do that, but you have done your task. See, if somebody is doing wrong, the first thing is you tell them this is wrong.
Okay.
They may say, the decision may be because of business compulsion, because of time compulsion. No, we cannot scrap everything. We may do, we have to reuse some of it. That is the business compulsion. But your first right is to inform them that what is the right solution, what is the right approach. And for that, you have to go to user, you have to go to business stakeholders, get a sense, and then evolve a business, a design vision for the product that they have, and evaluate what exists against the design vision. Identify the gap. If the gap can be bridged, good. You bridge it. If it can't be bridged, you go and tell the business user, the business stakeholders, this can't be bridged, and we have to do this. Then the call can be taken.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Even the application also there is an inconsistency there, so I need to fill that gap also.
Yeah, at a micro level, there could be many reasons. There could be variance, multiple designers done. Somebody has done a design, didn't evolve a system, didn't evolve a style to do this. So there were variants, various approaches to it. There could be many reasons, but I think largely if you do analysis like this, at a macro level, this is an analysis at macro level. At a micro level, all these factors of consistency, color combo, what approach, what style, what ethics, all that will come.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. So we have Bhumika who wants to discuss something with you. Bhumika, you can open your mic.
Yeah, actually, I want to discuss about where you stated a point that you reach at a saturation point where you not to over design something, right? So right now, I personally feel like whenever I'm in a design process or I'm designing, till the time I have a deadline, I tend to always, this could be designed even more, this could be solved even more, this could be something could be added even more. So uh, can you like discuss a little more about how you can stop or you prove that point in you, so you not like oversaturate your design with over designing it?
See, I think first and foremost is, and this is a very human scenario. It's almost like you go to a restaurant and you see the menu, and you have 15 other. You're not short on money. You want to, you can only eat 2 dishes, but because out of temptation, you order 4 dishes. 4 dishes come, and then you can only have two. So now, then comes the self-discipline, which is you have to choose 2 dishes. Or if you have ordered 3 dishes, then try to complete it. As simple as this. And I think largely it is the same framework which works for design. Whenever you're designing, good part, I think this is a very extremely important part, which you have already achieved, is being aware that I over design. There are a lot of, I think this is the biggest starting point. A lot of designers, they are not aware that over designing. If first and foremost you need to be conscious that I'm over designing. Now that is half the battle won. That I'm over designing. Now every time then when you get into a design, make sure before that you have the objectives, which is a blend of the user needs, and now the human values are coming to play, and then the business stakeholder needs, the business needs, whatever. All these three together is your template for reference. So whenever you're designing, and mentally you have a roadmap saying, okay, this design will have 3 key landmarks. First, when I'll do the wireframe, maybe that, the other is when I will do the color palette. Maybe that, third is when I'll do the 1+1 or kind of one, the first template. So every key template, every such landmark, you kind of stop, take a break, and go and check with the template that you have prepared for yourself. Which is again referring, the template is a blend of user need, human values, and your business stakeholder need. That are they fulfilling that or not? This is the sure shot check for overcoming temptation, because you may be over designing. You say, okay, this design, if you look at it, okay, the user are rural people, they don't need American colors. So if you are tempted to use American color, European colors, they don't need, they would more relate to Indian colors. And they don't have, they would want to relate to their more rural setting. So maybe you want to give the surface a more rural, or the product a more rural feel, So then you are checking, then your temptation was to use American color palette, American sensibility, design sensibility. Now you're overcoming that. So I think this is the core difference between art and design. Art, you keep on doing what you want to achieve, what comes to your mind, But in design, every now and then you should check. Are you achieving the objective or not? Are you achieving the objective or not? I think this is one way of doing that. But other thing, I think, like I said, the biggest thing is being conscious that I'm over designing. That I think you have achieved. So I think you achieve the other half also.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Yes.
Yeah, sir, I have a question
Yeah,
related to this. Like, while we are designing for some company or doing work for some other people, then we can discuss to them that what they exactly want in this. But if we are doing our own project, like a pet project, in that we tend to design a lot. Like, I have created a feature for this week today, and after I am coming back on next week, I'll see like in 1 week I have seen something else which is better. So I tend to design it again and again, and the process never ends.
So again, related question which she asked, but yes, important, interesting perspective. See, whenever you design, and understand that process of design. When you design, you're always designing for some objective. It's not a wandering, it's not a meandering exercise. It's always so even if you're doing your own projects, you always define a hypothetical set of users, a hypothetical set of business scenario. Hypothetical scenario could be that all Indian has become as rich as American. This is a hypothetical situation. You have kind of visualized that. Fine. Now you want to design something for this audience. All Indian have half of the Indians have SUVs. They have 2 cars, 3 cars. And they are like become extremely consumerist. People walk out, they want to have breakfast, they walk out and have burgers. Kind of. So this, so you have now visualized a scenario. You have a set, you have a defined set of users. Now you are designing. You design and then you see. Now if you come back, let's say a week later and say, "Sahi nahi laga." Want to kind of again when you say, "Okay, मैं इस तरह से design करना चाहता हूँ." Okay, ठीक है, करो आप. लेकिन you go and then validate against the set of user you have, designing it for. Say, नहीं ये तो चलेगा नहीं. But you still want to define it. So why don't you define another set of users? इसके लिए चलेगा. So मेरा कहने का मतलब ये है largely you always keep it bound by a objective, by a set of business and end user, and not just be like exercise कि यार ये अच्छा नहीं लग रहा है. My friend ने कहा कि not looking so good, let me try it some other. But because then you see this is the core habit, and this is how successful products are built, how successful design happens. That you always design, because design is always design is many things. Like I said, design, when you design, you act like God. But design is also a slave. The process of design is slavery. Because you are there to serve a need. You are there to fulfill an objective. You are not there to fulfill your own instinct. Understand? So it's also a slavery process. When you feel, on another level, you are like God. So this is the habit, and this is the habit of success. You never get out of the habit. If you keep doing this, I hope you will be bound, So don't stop iteration. It's good. But always have some objective for that iteration. Not just do it, on your whims. Yeah?
Yeah, sir, got it. So one other question related to ethics. Like, firstly, like when we are working on a startup or something, and sometimes we have a condition like we can follow the ethics or wait for a long run to earn something, and don't follow the ethics or earn some money in a short period of time. Sometimes this situation come like we know that is not better for the long run, but we don't take one-hand chances.
So we have, I think this is a very basic human judgment call. And we know the world is full of people who have taken or who will take shortcuts. So it's a very, like in real life, is the judgment call that we have to take. What do you want to be? See, understand that if you are good at what you are doing, and I'm telling you with my experience, money will follow you.
Yeah.
Money will follow you.
That's true.
If you are kind of chasing money, the money will run away. Get good at what you are doing. Be ethical about it. See, because understand, everybody in the world wants to be happy. Let's understand few basic truths about life. And but money is not equal to happiness. Money contributes to happiness, but money is not equal to happiness. So if you're choosing money, if you're chasing money with all your energy and gusto, then you're not chasing. You'll not have being happy. You'll not end up being happy. We have seen so many people who we think have enormous money, and they have prematurely, finished their life. Their life journey has ended prematurely in whatever way. So, which keep telling us, that the money is not equal to happiness. Number one, and money, even if you achieve money, you will not achieve happiness. But if you take care of all these things that we're talking of, you have a higher probability of achieving happiness. That you are being ethical about what you are doing. You are making sure that the design that you're producing is for the human goodness. It is not for human manipulation. And let's be realistic. When we say human manipulation, human goodness, not 100% can be human goodness. There's a business side, there's business pressure, and then you can be ethical, but not that. The rest of the world is not always ethical. But always make sure that you have the right balance. Always make sure that the balance is in favor of ethical decisions, ethical designs, ethical practices. 60%, 70% is there. 30%, okay, I will do because the marketing people are saying, okay, I will do this, a little bit of manipulation. Best scenario or idealistic scenario that absolutely ethical. But at least more, for scenarios where you don't have control, you can at least make sure that the balance is tilted in the favor of ethical design. That you can at least, yeah.
Yeah, got it.
So, okay, any other questions? We have one from Rohan, Nazim. How should one prepare for UI UX design interviews for someone who's a fresher and having technical background?
So I think I've answered this question first and foremost. Before the interview, you should prepare yourself to be ready for the UX space. UX space is that you will design for human experience. And when you say human experience, you never know what kind of human you're going to design for, what kind of mood of human you're going to design for, what kind of mental state of human you're going to design for. So it is extremely important that you understand, what human think like, how human think like. So I said 5 things, expose, and then it is also important that you understand what give pleasure to humans. And that is the reason now I go back to my first answer, that 4 or 5 things I said, that human pleasure, what people get human pleasure from. So, if you go to some of these artistic, expressions, or like a music concert, like a theater, or like an art gallery, these are human pursuit of excellence, aesthetic pursuits. It gives pleasure. So you will get a sense of what gives pleasure to you. Then you will understand the human mindset by talking to as many humans as possible. Then understand what is going on in the industry by reading about the industry. And then try and practice this by having a pet project. Practice it by having always a side pet project. So what do you learn? What do you hear? What do you imbibe? Rather than making an accident in a live project, if you have a pet project, it's like a practice project for you. So I think before somebody gets into a UX interview, it is important that you prepare, because you are giving an interview to be successful in an interview. Correct? And to be successful in an interview, you should be well prepared. So I think this is the foundation once you do that. And then if I come to the specific question, which is UX interview, UX interviews are of multiple types. There's no specific, even UX jobs are of different types. There are UX jobs where you are supposed to design a B2B product, B2C product, B2C logistic, B2B health, B2B travel. Every of these verticals has different demands. So I think you need to study what vertical the demand is coming from, what skills, what mindset is required from that job, from that role, and then prepare accordingly for that. Number 1. Number 2, I think most important thing when you get into the interview, relax. Be yourself. Be honest. That is the most, I think, the second one. And third, I think, which says without saying, brush up all your things that you know about UX. Practice. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah, sir, one other question I have. While we create a product, people say that a story is that which attract more people about it.
I did not get you. Come again.
We have a product, and people are attracted to the stories. They want to know about the story, that what's the process and everything. But the story is made by the people. So we have changed the people's opinion, then the story will start continuing its way. I have read some thing, I was reading about the people thinking, design thinking. In that, I read about people think that the stories are shaped by people, but in fact, the other way around. We might paraphrase slightly. It is true that the product are shaped by stories that people tell about them.
Yeah, interesting perspective and right perspective, and I'll talk about that. But let me also understand the question that you asked. What is the
Yeah, I
question?
think
I got the good, interesting insight, and you said I'll talk about that. But what is the question?
the question is I don't get how stories works.
So how stories work?
Yeah.
See, every design exercise is story. If you look at, let's look at a typical Bollywood film. Every Bollywood film is a story. It's a bad story, it's a flop story, it's a good story. So that is a different matter. Some good stories also flop. Doesn't mean that all good stories are hits. But yes, what can be said is every film is a story. So for general purpose, if I take that example, a story has a certain structure. Either it opens with a happy opening. Then there is a certain build up which happens. Then there is a tension in the plot. Somewhere a point comes where there is suspense in the plot. The suspense comes, and then the suspense is resolved towards the end. Some of these stories have the inverse pyramid. The suspense at the beginning, and then they solve it towards the end. Something of that sort. Whatever the story structure, the crux is every film is a story. Like that, every design is a story. You should look at every design as a story. When I go to an interface, let me take example of a web interface. I go, the first story is something. Oh, look at me. There's a young girl photo like this, doing like this. Look at me, and here is what I can do to your child. So you move up, down. It tells you, okay, this is what I can do for your child. Okay, when your child do this, she will be like this. The benefits of the products. And when okay, she will do like this. And then as you go down, oh, and these are the other people who have done similar thing, and they have feel the benefit. This is their feelings. So there is testimonials. At the bottom that you have testimonials. So largely, if you look at it, it is the kind of structure that you have. So if you look at it, it's a visual story. Now, if you look at, so this is a structural analysis of a website, but if you look from a visual analysis of story, all layouts should have a visual anchoring point. If the banda aaya, there is a saying, again, this is, I kind of talk among my design in the past also, that visual dissonance, I call it visual dissonance. You land on something, you don't know where to focus. There are 5 elements, and 5 elements have equal focus. So you look at it, you will look there, you look there. So that means the story doesn't have the visual doesn't have a plot. It's like all opposite. If it is a plot, then you say, okay, you land here. There's one visual space. Either it's a font, it's a photo, or some typo, or a color, block, and which becomes the resting place for the entire layout. And then from there, the journey goes like this, but he will come again and say rest there. Then he will go like this and come and rest there. If you have too many, equally visual element, then this is visual dissonance. You're not able to focus. So even the visual layer, every design exercise is a story. So this is a correlation between what a story is and how design thinking happens. Just a very quick kind of parallel that I can kind of draw.
Yeah. Looks like we have now questions coming, a lot of questions coming. Now we are also running out of time. So Nazim, maybe if you can, if people still have questions to ask, And if you don't mind, Nazim, you can drop in your email or something where people can, contact you.
Yeah, I think you have my contact detail. You can distribute to people.
All right. All right. I'll just post
Question.
it in the chat
You
section.
can give them. You can give them the number also.
Okay.
Post 6 o'clock, it's better suited for me to.
Right.
And I
Right.
think I start with one more question, a small question.
Yeah,
Like it's not a question. Like UXD talks means what is that?
I did not come again.
Like UXD talks. What?
So, Shrikant, I will answer that question.
Okay.
So, UXG Talks, we are the hosting partners with IDF. IDF is an interaction design
Yeah.
foundation.
Yeah.
So many of us who are members of IDF, it's a Denmark-based company and it provides UX courses. So
Okay.
it is online courses which IDF provides, and they also encourage to form communities and where people can learn with each other, and we can people like Nazim can give us their insightful talks, just like today we had. So IDF is kind of community that promotes UX, and it teaches UX, and it also encourages to the professionals to come
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
forward
Yeah.
their
Idea.
digital
Yeah.
agenda. So
Um,
UXC Talks is the hosting partner with IDF.
okay.
Yeah, so we organize events, we make people come together, we combine communities. So I'll give you link at the
Okay.
end of it. So we can
Okay.
wrap
Now.
up now. If you have any questions, in a minute I'll be posting Nazim's contact detail, and you can contact him later.
Yeah. Sure.
And I hope you all have found this very knowledgeable, very insightful talk. I have at least gained a lot. Even I have a question to ask, but I think we are running out of time. And yes, I can ask Nazim later, because, or maybe I'll just quickly ask Nazim if you don't mind.
yes, yes, yes. Please go.
So, being a developer, and today in audience we have few developers.
Yeah.
So this is
I'm happy to know, that it's a mixed audience of design and development.
Yes, and yeah, we always have mixed audience. So I just wanted to understand it, where I found the development, the thin line between UX and the front end. I mean, when we have to start a project, we usually focus on something which the design that we get, and sometimes we don't even like the design, but we have to go ahead and develop it and design it and make it. But when it comes that if we have to make same design, how should we do it? And there we go blank. I'm telling about when I first had UX experience, and how I found this interesting, and I went through articles of IDF. I got myself involved in UX. So there I find ki how to go about it. There are so many streams, there are so many fields in UX itself. It's a huge umbrella. So I sometimes really feel how, as a developer, we can start with the design thinking, because it's a totally different mindset, doing a design and developing. There are total defined matlab different minds. You cannot go parallelly in both. You first do the design and then you go for development. So I just want to know, I mean, what are your views on this?
See, I think it's interesting, again, an interesting perspective, uh, I'll go back 15 years back,
Yeah.
and I used to be a far more interesting person that one time. Uh, so we used to have, back end, front end, and
Mm,
visual designers,
mm.
So, and this I'm talking of 15, 16 years back. So people say, oh, front end wale,
Yeah,
what do front end. I said they're the lost tribe.
yeah,
What they made has already been made by the visual designer.
mm,
What data they are showing already been powered by the backend guy.
mm.
They're the lost tribe. I used to run around with my team. But understand, in the last 10 years, front end has become the most important slice of the entire cake.
Absolutely.
It has become the most important slice of the entire cake. Because if the front end doesn't work in the right shape and way and with the right means, no amount of data that comes out, can be displayed in the right way, and like you said, the visual aata hai and how it will produce, and this is the story in most of the cases, that the Photoshop or the PSD or Flutter's files, when it comes, to you, and when it goes out, it's a different story altogether.
Absolutely.
And largely, one of the key reasons why this happens, because this happens still in silos. Research team is talking to the visual design team. Visual design team then produce and give it to front end. It's not the case. When ideally in my project, when what I used to do and which I recommend, once every project should have a design vision. This is what we are looking to achieve, which is a combination of user need, stakeholder, and human value. Once you have the design vision in place, bring all the team together. Every team should come together, and then they become part of the vision. It is discussed with them, the feedback is taken, and the final shape is given. Then they become co-owner of that. They are no longer outsiders. And you never know. And as I believe that there is no limit about from where the ideas can come, good ideas can come. So what I mean to say, if the front end, if I take that at a more micro level, then the design process should involve front end in their decisions. It should not be taken just at the visual design text level.
Absolutely.
It should be in conjunction. The front end team should be part of it.
Exactly.
Of those part of the decision.
When it comes to vision, when it comes to discussion, you're doing wireframing.
Yes.
Front end should be part of team, so
Yes.
that from the beginning they have this mindset.
Correct. If not the whole team, at least the front end, team leaders should be part of that discussion.
Team leader.
They can come and debrief that.
Of
This
course.
is what is expecting. That will keep the team involved. That will keep the team, give a team a sense of ownership, and it makes that design implementation much easier. Otherwise, this will keep happening. Typically, this is a typical scenario. PSD, is made with some vision, and front end is produced with another vision.
Yes.
And ultimately, and then it goes and integrates with back end, then it add a third dimension, acquire a third dimension.
Absolutely. Okay. Thank you, Nazim. Thank you so much.
Thanks everybody.
Yeah, so let's wind up. And I'm posting here, this is Nazim's contact. You can mail him, or you can also have his, he's on WhatsApp as well. So you can contact him there.
Yeah, the better would be that you WhatsApp and then call.
Yeah.
You never know where is somebody.
Obviously.
Yeah.
Okay then, guys, I hope you find this very useful. Also, we will be posting, the entire session has been recorded and we'll be posting it soon on our YouTube channel. In the beginning also, I have posted our link, and I'm posting this again. You can, just add it to your, add this to your timeline, and we'll be posting, you'll be informed about whenever we're going to have a premiere, when will this recorded session will be on YouTube. So we can
Okay. Yeah. Thanks everybody. Should I take a leave?
Thank you for your time, guys.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much for
That's fine.
taking out your time.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you so much. Okay. Thank you.